Hi, my name is Peace McAllister. I'm the outreach coordinator for Going Blind and Going Forward, an outreach campaign based on the film Going Blind Coming Out of the Dark about vision loss. In the film, we tell the personal stories of 7 individuals dealing with vision loss. Today on this episode of Going Blind and Catching Up, I talked to Steve Baskis, a former war veteran who was blinded in service due to a roadside bomb. In the 13 years since the film was made, he's done plenty of amazing things, including climbing mountains, giving motivational speeches, and making his own music. He isn't the first person we've caught up with, and won't be the last, so you should go check out goingblindmovie.com for the others. Anyway, let's get to the interview.
I was actually trying to work on some music this morning, little intro for like you were talking about. I just did some piano and like strings and stuff.
I definitely would appreciate that. I mean, I'm going to use it for the intro of this video and then the other videos too, if you want to make something
Yeah,
for it.
if you think, yeah, I don't know. I guess usually I would probably listen to the video and then do something. But yeah, it's an orchestral kind of feel. But yeah, I'll send it over to you and you can decide if you want to use it or not.
Stop recording.
So I'm recording now,
Okay.
and I'll make sure that I turn off my screen reader
Voiceover off.
and I put my phone in do not disturb. So hopefully it's across the board on my computer and everything.
Okay. I mean, you can, if you need the reader on, I have no problem with you having the reader on. I think it also goes to demonstrate the kind of stuff that you're doing and how you're using it to.
I don't need it on if we're talking, but if I wanted to show something, then it would need to be on, but I mean, I don't know. Yeah. So if I'm not showing anything, it's not a big deal. So
Okay.
I can turn it on in 2 seconds. It's back on now. So, but I'm just going to turn it off so it doesn't talk over. I don't even know if you're picking it up really. It may not be being picked up.
No, I can hear it. I can hear it.
Okay.
But
Well, it's off.
It's
right
no
now.
problem. But yeah, it's nice to see you again. I know that we just talked just a few days ago to get a test in, but I have questions for you that I think are good. I spent a lot of time after watching your part of the film kind of thinking about whether or not I wanted to ask you questions that were more based on the film, or the questions that could be based on the interview that you had done previously. But I think I have a good amount. So if you're ready to go, I'm ready to go.
Ready to go.
Great. So I had talked to Joe recently, and I had noticed by the end of the film you had kind of just moved into your own space and you're trying to become a little bit independent, living by yourself and kind of figuring out how to have your own space as somebody who has vision loss.
Yes.
But then Joe recently told me that when the film premiered, you had you weren't able to make it because you were already climbing a mountain.
That's true. I think I do. I mean, the mountain that I climbed that year was in Mexico, so it's the only one that I really climbed. So that must have been right around the time of the premiere.
So I guess my first question is just like, in the 13 years or so that have passed since the film was made, all the amount of stuff that you've been doing, which includes like rock climbing, kayaking, skiing, and then obviously now your journey into music and sound. I would love if you could just talk about some of the specifics of how you've been able to accomplish some of these physical tasks, because I think it's probably very valuable for people who are in a position like yours who might be interested in doing stuff like this, how they can like kind of get a start and how they can maybe find their own independence in doing that.
How does one adventure and do these athletic endeavors, I guess, but also the technological side of things that I've participated in as of recent? I think that it was just networking in the very beginning. I read some books of some different people that were blind. One specifically a guy named Eric, and I was inspired by his story and just by his family and his life and him. Basically he was a climber, And I was interested always in the outdoors. And that's why I served in the military, and my occupation was infantry. So I was not at a desk. I was really always outside in the field. And so that didn't change. I mean, I was the same person, just lost my sight. And I was sitting there dreaming and thinking and imagining in the hospital, how am I going to pursue these things that I've always dreamt about, like venturing into the mountains, hiking, traveling the world, seeing things more or less. I always wanted to see the world. And I did not want to, I guess, forget that dream, give up on that dream. And so I was like, oh, well, there are these people that are doing it. Why don't I reach out to them? And so I wrote people, and I wrote Eric, and I donated a little bit of money because I thought he was taking these kids on expeditions. And I think I watched an Arizona rafting video that was done by some news agency there near Phoenix. And I decided to tell my story in an email. And a few weeks later, I got a message. So really, to do, you should be outgoing, and you should try to pursue people or groups of people that are maybe doing the things that you're interested in. That's what I would advise, or the information I would provide to someone that is interested in climbing or hiking or kayaking or pursuing anything, in that regard. Networking is essential.
And what platforms exactly did you use to find these people to network with them?
I can give specific resources in the sense of organizations, but I mean, if you get on the internet and you do a Google search, if you're using a screen reader or you're having a friend help, search for adaptive athletics, adaptive recreation. Incorporate blind or visually impaired in the keywords of your search string for the types of interests you have, and see if you do find a niche group. Sometimes it's very difficult to find the groups, but there are Google forums, and for the technology side of things, like the music and the audio that I'm pursuing, this degree at Berklee College of Music. I wasn't too sure if there was a group of blind individuals or visually impaired individuals that were professionals working in the industry. And I was, for a few years, really trying hard to find out if it was possible to use the digital audio workstation Pro Tools, which is an application for editing and recording audio. And I found finally that they were working on it, and it was becoming more and more accessible. And that was just through searching. But I did find people too in groups, like forums, where they were keeping people up to date and providing information about what was on the horizon. But it's the same thing for the physical things. In Colorado, where I live, all the ski resort towns like Breckenridge and Aspen and Vail and Telluride, Steamboat Springs, they all have a specific kind of adaptive program, like a headquarters, a building, and a place where usually you can stay over for a week. And this is for both civilian and veteran, blind, visually impaired, amputee, paraplegic, you name it. They work with you and get you out doing things. And that's not only winter sports, but summer sports. So it's just asking questions. For me, I had some friends listening to me when I was telling them how I felt, like in the hospital. And they were bringing me the books, like the audio books, like the book I mentioned. I read a book by Eric Weinmeier and called Touch the Top. And so that book and other books and other individuals who are blind and visually impaired kind of gave me the inspiration or the idea that it's possible. And hey, who's the best person to ask it? Another blind person or visually impaired person that's doing what you want to do. So I through friends and through searching on the web with my accessible technology or with help from sighted individuals, I just networked and found a way to connect. And I was open about my story, about the frustrating loss of sight, my worries about being able to accomplish things, do things. How was I going to do it? All that I expressed to people. If you're silent, you don't speak about it, no one knows how you feel. No one knows where you want to go, what you want to do. And there are a lot of people that have helped me accomplish great things. It's a team effort. So that's what I would say.
I was gonna say, this was something that I was thinking about a little bit because in the film, Pat Williams talks a little bit about like self-consciousness and passing as cited. And I was curious, based off of what you just said about being very vocal about your experiences, if you, in that process, were feeling emotions of being a little bit self-conscious about your experience, or if the idea that you were able to be so vocal meant that you were very confident in wanting to take that step for yourself.
I think uh, I felt a lot of things right after I lost my sight. I mean, people have to understand that I was a soldier and I had volunteered to serve in the military. So I think I had, of course, some confidence and courage to I guess, to pursue something in a selfless manner, as they would say, most people would say, in the sense of volunteering to serve in the military and being governed by your country and the government to go off to war, to a foreign land. So a lot of my life ahead of, before growing up, moving around the country, taught me how to adapt and to feel strongly about my desires, my ambitions. And so I think laying in the bed, I just naturally was outspoken about how I felt. I know that's not the same for everybody, and even for some veterans, they go extremely quiet. They shut down. Yeah, I mean, that's the hardest thing is to sometimes I think mentally we shackle ourselves. Meaning, what I mean by that is we kind of lock ourselves in a certain kind of thought process about who we are, what's happened to us, why, whatever's horrible, going on. And I always think about, when you network, like I was just talking about before, and you meet people, especially when you go and you meet a lot of people that have similar problem as you start realizing that, oh, this person likes to climb mountains. Oh, this person likes to do math. This person likes to, and, and there's just a diverse amount of people that all have a similar injury or problem, with their vision, but they are all doing things their own way. And why can't you change your mind and try to focus on one of these paths and ask these people, how do you accomplish, how do you set out and do what they've accomplished or what they've pursued. So I think it's hard, of course, in the moment to feel these things. It takes time. And I mean, ultimately, I wanted to become, I wanted to catch up to where I had left off. I thought I was like at the peak of my, just starting my life, just starting out as a 20-year-old, 21, 22-year-old. And it was just something I just wanted to get back to living life. I didn't want to delay my life, so rehab, recovery, and all these things, I was focused, definitely very, very focused on it.
Your sight loss is tied to such a like violent traumatic event that I was curious if you have experienced PTSD from that event, and if so, if that like if your experience with PTSD is different based off of your sight loss and how tied it is to your sight loss.
Yeah, PTSD is an interesting thing. I definitely have had post-traumatic stress from all kinds of ordeals and challenges I've experienced throughout life. Excuse me. I think losing people, I lost friends next to me. One specifically died next to me the day I lost my sight, and it's the person was like a father to me. I worked with them day in, day out. You don't like electronics or computers, you can erase the memory or delete, a file on your hard drive. I mean, a human being, as I grow older, I'm 37 now, uh, you don't forget. You really, uh, you really think deeply about your past. I mean, at least I do. And maybe some people think a bit too deeply and hold on to certain things. But yeah, I mean, it definitely still affects me. I still can transport myself mentally back to that time period. It seems like yesterday, I mean, it seems like, even though 15 years now have passed almost. May, I think, will be 15 years at the time of this recording. So I deal with it in different ways, and that's just by being focused, trying to think of the future, think about what I can accomplish and what I can do, and not so much about what I can't do or what I'm unsure about. I just got to try, is how I think. Just got to try, and not really hold yourself to this idea that you have to be, conventional like everybody else. You have to do everything exactly the way that, it's taught or sighted people do something. It's being unconventional. And the funny thing is, in the military, I wanted to pursue an occupation in unconventional warfare and special operations. And so there's two sides of the military. There might be many, depending on how you look at it. And one is the unconventional and one is more conventional. And so you look at things in a different way. So I think that's, for me, I bring that up because I think I was thinking about things like this, just on a whole different, I wasn't thinking about blindness and loss of sight, but I was thinking about living an unconventional life and thinking about how to create strategies and tactics and procedures, protocol to accomplish things. So in horrendous, challenging, adverse environments. So I guess blindness is just a big challenge, and I'm just, trying to figure out ways, solutions to solve problems every day and march forward.
Do you mind talking a little bit about some of those some of those unconventional tactics you've used to do things like kayaking,
Sure.
rock climbing, and those other physical activities that you've been doing that even a seeing person obviously can have a lot of difficulty doing?
Yeah, absolutely. Like some of the strategies or tactics, whatever you want to call it. There's TTPs, tactics, techniques, and procedures in the military. It's an acronym. I mean, you can call it whatever you want. I think it was simple. When I was laying in the hospital bed, I realized that I had been struck down and that my physical body and mental, my mind, was definitely challenged. And I mean, I had a subdural hematoma, bleeding on the brain, lost my eyes because of fragments hitting my head and my eyes. I had shrapnel in my neck, both my arms and legs, lost a lot of blood. I was fatigued. I was so tired. I was on the brink of death at times. I recall and feel. I, it was such a strange feeling. It was the weakest I've ever been in my life. And so when laying in the hospital, all I wanted to do was not be weak and to be back where I was, a 20-year-old serving in the military, strong, confident and capable, and very independent, making decisions, helping their, lead missions in a combat zone. And that's what I was doing. And now I was laying in a bed. Everything went from 150 miles an hour to zero. And all I wanted to do was, okay, I need to recover. I need to recover. I need to pursue sports or recreation, do something that gets me moving, that gets me fit again. Because I can't lay here and expect to get better necessarily. So I just started to work hard on moving in my bed, moving my knee that was hurting. I was just trying to move my legs, stretch, do whatever I could to move. I mean, they put these compression things on my leg because you lay so still all the time. to prevent, blood clotting and problems. So I was worried about that. It was, it was told to me by the nurses, this is why you have these. So I wanted to move. So as soon as I could get up and stand, I was pursuing things. I was looking up ways to go and, you know, pursue the things I was talking about, like these books and people that were giving me information. A climb or a trip somewhere forces someone to really come out of their comfort zone. And I always looked at it like whatever I do is rehab. So if I have to go climb a mountain, I have to pack my bags. I have to decide what I'm taking. I have to get myself out of bed. I have to do all the things that anybody has to do. And, you're worried when you're blind, when you first wake up and you lost your sight. How do you do these things? I didn't know how to do it. I was asking, I was learning, rehab, everything that I could. But picking to actively, do something, to actively pursue something really puts yourself out there. And that was a big strategy of mine. So when I go on a climbing adventure, I have to take care of myself just as much as the people are taking care of themselves, and as a team we're working together. And so the whole trip is like each time I went out and did something in the country, whether it was a tandem bike ride or a climb or a swim or whatever it might have been, a triathlon, a marathon, I had to take care of my bag, I had to take care of my stuff, and that helped me rehab and recover. It helped me reestablish a new normal. And that's what I would tell anybody, that they should not stop and pause and let their life tick by, 5 to 10, 15 years. And then you meet somebody that's doing what I'm talking about. And you realize, wow, I should not have waited so long. I've met so many people that told me that over the years, that they were unsure, they were scared, and they stayed home and they stayed kind of protected. And I understand that why people do that, but I think we have to move. We have to go live our lives. That's what I believe.
You've talked about how losing your sight so rapidly you felt like was an advantage. And then you've also gone on to talk about your youth. So I was curious, A, how you see losing your sight rapidly was an advantage. And then also if you feel like losing your sight at such a young age versus losing it at an old age would have been an advantage or disadvantage for you.
It's a great question. Losing my sight young and also quickly, and a very traumatic experience. For me, I guess when I evaluate and assess the different interactions and experiences I've had with other people over the years, it seems that being, young and having the vision go so quickly, I had to make a decision to recover. I couldn't just beat around the bush or, put it off and say, I'll look at the blind stuff and the visually impaired stuff down the road. Also, I think low vision, visually impaired, being in between, something I have no idea, because I had perfect vision. I had better than perfect vision. My acuity was like 2019, 2018 instead of 2020. And so I went from that to nothing. And I think that it just provides you this ability you have to make a decision. You really can't be like, I can use my vision to get by. And I think sighted people see visual impairments in a strange way. They kind of just think there's blind and not blind. And there are a lot of different, in my opinion, that's how I feel. It seems like that's what people, when I have conversation with them, that's what they think.
Going blind, for example, like before watching the film and before talking and working with Joe, I definitely was part of that group who I guess theoretically, if you had asked me If there was a blind spectrum, I would have obviously had to say yes, because obviously there are like people with glasses that can see better with or without them. But you don't
Exactly.
really think about it on a deeper level unless you are impacted by it or have somebody around you who's been impacted by it, and you see how bigger the spectrum of vision loss is. But sorry to interrupt. Keep going, please.
No, yeah. So absolutely, you're valid. You valid kind of verify and confirm what I'm saying. I don't ever ask people directly, but the thing is, so yeah, so that fast change or traumatic change helped me make a decision quickly, I mean, for me at least. And being young, usually when you're young, you're resilient, you can adapt quicker. So that's my, perspective on it. Now, the elderly individuals I spent time with in blind rehab, Vietnam, Korean, World War II veterans, when they lost their sight at 80, 75, 90, they've lived, the way I looked at it was they've lived their life. They're creatures of habit. They've have a certain way of doing things. They've had for a long time, a certain way of doing things. Humans are pretty much the same. We don't want a lot of change to happen to us really quickly. It's very traumatic, whatever the change might be. Uh, just like software, updates. It changes the whole interface, and you're like, where is the button that I need to click on? So it's the same concept, I guess, with the vision loss. You don't want, uh, when you're so used to doing something for so long, you don't want change to happen so quickly, and that's what the conversations I had, and more importantly, like the slow loss of vision, someone that's losing their vision in a slow way, they have to make decisions about driving, about walking with or without a cane, and a lot of times when I thought about it, I was like, I don't. It's a love-hate relationship with my cane. It's a love-hate relationship with these things that brand me as a blind or visually impaired person. So I know, knowing myself, it would be difficult to let go of certain things. And I would probably try to be a chameleon and try to look, like I'm not blind, because I don't want people to attach that to me. And so I guess, yeah, it's very challenging, no matter what, but definitely youth and fast loss of sight really made me look at my transition and rehab in such a way, like I just explained.
Going back to youth, and then also some of the tools that you talked about with people making decisions about how to go about existing in the world with their vision loss. In the film, during part of it, I don't know if you remember, but you and Joe walk around while you're using a cane to get around like a few city blocks, it seems like. And you
Yeah.
talk about how you use the sound of the city to kind of navigate you through the space. And I was curious if you feel like that use of sound that you have kind of, I guess, matured since your vision loss may have led you down the path to do musical engineering and sound design and stuff like you're doing right now. And also if the fact that you were so young and had to use so much technology to kind of make up for the fact that you had lost your vision, if you felt like those two things in combination may have helped you or inspired you to go down this path, or if that was something that was completely characteristic of you beforehand, or.
Well, I was a musician to some degree before I lost my sight. I've played the drums since I was 13, off and on as a hobby though, for fun. I mean, I as in a few high school, bands, but really not a learned, like like a musician that took a lot of music theory and stuff. I dabbled with it, and so um, I always had this idea that in the back of my mind that I would love to try to learn how to make media, film and music. But when I chose to serve in the military, I knew I was going down a path that could take me completely in a different direction. And I honestly loved the path I was on, but that dramatically changed, of course. And so I thought back to my interests. And for me personally, I've always been someone that has seeked out experiences. Uh, I've always tried to really diversify, my experience and the things I do in life. I really wanted to try to do whatever experience whatever I can and could. And so before I lost my sight, I moving around the country and experiencing a lot of different things in a lot of different places and traveling outside the country as a young kid and adult gave me a lot of ideas about maybe what I could do. So I think music, though, and audio is so instrumental, in my day-to-day living. It definitely, I've been probably attracted or influenced because, well, there is this market or group of individuals that are professionals that work with audio that are blind. With all the technology and the way the world's modernizing, I'm able to use technology, accessible technology to do things with audio, and and it just fits. It just fits my lifestyle, and I want to share stories and share what I've been through, and have control of what is being, how I'm being portrayed and what I want to share. So it's just kind of the path that I've taken. I could have gone down many other paths or roads, and but I love music. Music is like therapy to me, and it's always been part of my life. And now I'm just investing more in it. And blindness has definitely, I think, made it that more amazing, because I listen to things and I listen to the world in such a deep manner uh, that is different from when I was sighted. I have a lot of great memories of being sighted and having all my abilities, but blindness has given me a whole new way to look at the world. And so yeah, music is definitely something that I hope to get better at, and that's what I'm focusing on now, among other athletic and sports things still. But yes, definitely music has come around because of the blindness and loss of sight.
It's really cool that you are talking about music in that way. I think music is therapy, and being able to have it as a version of being able to tell your own story is also extremely interesting. I was curious if, for the benefit of anybody watching, including myself, if there's anything that you're working on right now.
Yeah, I can share my screen. We have the ability, usually I can press Command Shift S.
Safari, Mail, Finder, Pro Tools.
So this is like some music I'm fooling around with right now. Hopefully, if I press play. So I made this just before we started the interview. And so I can,
4 percussion, 2 violin LDR, 1 piano.
like I played the piano part, I can solo it. If I hit Shift S, it's a Pro Tools command. So this is Pro Tools, digital audio workstation. And I focused on a specific track. If I press play now, we'll hear just the piano. So I played this. And then after that, I decided to put a violin
2 violin LDR.
over it. This is from a specific kind of orchestral library. It's very realistic. Here's it's playing C major. It's the same, the key is in C major, and it's playing pretty much the same, for the most part, the same thing. But I'm soloing it, so you just hear the violin there. And then the other instrument is a cello, if I'm not mistaken. And so I have like 3 octaves, like a low in between, and then a high with the violin. And so you get this. And it's just some chords, some simple chords and things I'm playing. I don't even know it. I was just fooling around. And it's kind of, yeah, I was thinking it could be like an intro or something. But yeah, that's like a kind of like an idea of what I'm doing in a software program. But yeah, I can show you whatever. But I'm using a screen reader, VoiceOver, with my Mac computer to move around and do these things. and a bunch of computer, keyboard shortcuts, of course, help me as well. So I'll stop sharing my screen.
Stop share. Zoom.
But but yeah, I hope that kind of gives you an idea of what I mean. I'm so interested in all kinds of music: electronic, orchestral, rock, everything, reggae. I mean, I was probably more rock and like metal, kind of influenced, but I really love everything, classic rock, and all the new stuff. There's nothing I don't really like. So, but yeah.
Is the plan to eventually maybe have some stuff that's available online for like Apple Music and Spotify and
Oh
stuff?
yeah, yeah. I have so much to learn. I really don't know. I've been just the last 2 years since COVID. I turned to academics during COVID because we couldn't go and climb and hike. I couldn't go with teams of people. Everybody was afraid. It was very challenging. It's been very difficult actually. But we've moved beyond that, and while I was, deep within COVID, I focused a lot on learning this software program, and I've been right now learning how to write music. I'm trying. See, I'm just doodling there, really. I trying to explain it, chords and a lot of things. I'm still learning a lot of that music theory. But music, is wild. It's you don't have to be an expert to make things sound nice. You just you just have to want to have a passion for it, and really try. I think anybody can learn how to play music, but I don't know if it sounds good, People will decide, but I'm trying, I have the rest of my life to learn. So that's kind of how I look at it. It's a lifelong challenge. But yeah, I do want to release music. I'd love to score films. I hope to do some, create documentaries just like Joe and you guys, what you guys are doing, and share stories, and then put music to the film. That's a big goal of mine. And work with sighted people. They give me cues. They type up at 1 minute 5 seconds, this is what's happening, and then I can mark that in Pro Tools with markers, and I can move, and I can kind of get a feel from what sighted people have given me with notes, and then I can try to make the music. It's slow. It won't be the same as a sighted person, unfortunately, but I can do it. It's very possible, if people give someone a chance.
Well, when you get there, trust me, we'll be as helpful as we can in promoting your content and your work.
Well, thank you.
Obviously, every person is different, but what is your advice to somebody who maybe has just recently lost their vision? Also, do you think that that aspect of like potentially slowing down, if you do still agree with that opinion, has that bled over to other aspects of your life that aren't directly related to your sight loss?
Yeah, I think it's an interesting question. Try to live life fast or slow, or take things one step at a time. I I of course, like I explained, excuse me, I wanted to jump back into things quickly, and the thing is even though I wanted to, it's not. It didn't necessarily happen fast. I'm still learning how to deal with a lot of things. I lived 22 years of my life with sight. I've lived 15 years blind. So I've not equally like lived a period of time that equals to sight, my sighted period. And I guess I always kind of put that out there like that because, we're creatures of habit, like I mentioned before. We learn how to live a certain way. And you're only disabled, in my opinion, when something is inflicted on you and changes you traumatically. But over time, if you give yourself the ability, hopefully you don't have such a horrendous injury but the world is such a wild place with technology and the things that exist. We can recover, rehab, or find some sort of way to do something. And I think whether it's fast or slow, it's just really the drive. You have to really encourage yourself deep down to really pursue things and not worry about failing, not worry about. I failed in so many things all the time, still do. Blindness is a failure. You know, I mean, I lost my sight because of the enemy, someone who was trying to kill me. I mean, that was a failure. You know, that day I could look at it as a complete failure. But you know, we all have failures in life. It's just we should, you know, like everybody says, you know, get up, dust yourself off, and try to keep moving. And yeah, I'm not moving with my eyes anymore, but I'm trying to figure out solutions and ways forward. And that's so important. So whether you do it fast or slow, I don't think it really matters. Just you have to remind yourself to not give up and to continue to try, because it's so easy to put all your eggs in one basket, and then if they're all broken, then that's the end of the life. You know, that you feel that way. It's, again, shackling yourself to some sort of mental thought process or idea. I'm a failure and I can't fix anything. I can't do anything. There's no way out of this, and that's it. I don't think that's a good, healthy way, of course, to think about things. And of course, I feel that way sometimes. I'm not superhero, Superman. I have to break myself of those thoughts, and I have to throw myself into things. Like I told you, I take risks. When was the last time you tried something new? You know, that's what I always am asking myself. Even when I'm telling myself, I don't want to do it, I'm tired, it's hard, I don't want to be uncomfortable. I'm always constantly telling myself, when I'm feeling that way, there's a reminder. I've programmed myself to remind myself, no, you got to go try. You got to go try. And then usually when you try, you're with a bunch of people and you're like, wow, I didn't realize this would be that good. And then it just, you know, compounds, and you are able to march forward. At least that's my experience. I hope that people can do that as well. I think so, because I've met so many. That's my answer, I guess.
That is so, it's so relevant and so impactful and so true for any kind of person. Like, I don't think that that's specific to somebody that's going through what you're going through. I think that there are a lot of people going through things, even if it's just purely a mental block, that that advice is probably so valuable, to just be able to force yourself, or convince yourself, maybe is a better term, to just take another shot at something, to not let this one instance of hardship completely, take you down and take away who you were.
Definitely. Definitely.
But I think that that answers everything that I had for you today, Steve. If there's anything else you'd like to say or talk about, you're completely open and welcome to do that.
Oh no, I don't think so. I I always am sharing my story and talking too much to people. So
Oh yeah,
so
that's right. You do seminars, right?
I go and speak a lot of times, and with before COVID, I was speaking in schools quite a bit. But lately, I have not been speaking much. I have just been focusing on school, gallivanting, and training myself with music and audio. Um, you know, I want to release things, I want to share things, but I'm afraid of my work. You know, I'm afraid of things. So it's like I don't know. You know, because I kind of feel like this path I'm on wasn't the path I was really like planning. You know, sometimes, you know, I'm like, oh, so yeah, you know, yeah, it's just, you know, again, I have to remind myself, you know, don't worry about those things, but and just try, and don't be worried about what others feel or think. You just do what you love. But yeah, I do love to speak and try to not so much inspire, but give people another way to look at things. You know, the longer I can speak to people and ask them questions, and we, you know, go back and forth, I love that. That's why I don't like doing corporate stuff that much or anything, but I love speaking to people that really have like they feel like they have a problem, and they are searching for an answer. I may not have the answer for them, but maybe I'll jog, you know, something loose in their mind, and they'll find someone that, you know, like I said, networking, you know, finding the right person that you agree with, you jive with, you feel amazing with, is going to give you probably the inspiration and the desire to pursue what you're looking for. I may not be that person, you know, but there's someone, I think, you know. So, and I have so many of those people in my life. That's the thing. That's the key thing. Everything is a team effort, whether you're blind or not. So I guess that's all I have to say.
Well, thanks, Steve. I mean, bringing you out of motivational talk retirement has definitely been beneficial.
Well, thank you. Thank you.
Thank you for all your time. I'm sure that anybody who's watching this, no matter what their situation is, can take something valuable out of this conversation, because you just seem like a wealth of knowledge, even though having just watched the film recently again, you have like appeared to me as a fully grown man.
Thank you for the kind words. Peace. I really appreciate it.
Of course. Thank you, Steve, for spending. If you're interested in hearing some more, you should go to goingblindmovie.com. There, as well as other interviews, we have information about how to become part of the outreach. Going Blind is only one of multiple films by Closer Look Inc., a non-profit organization that works to minimize suffering, maximize empathy, and inspire action on health and social justice issues through the use of media. To help us fulfill our mission, or to hear the many other varied stories we tell, you should visit our website and also check out some of our other projects too. Thanks again for watching, and I hope to see you soon.